The contract clause that shocked Ferrari's leadership team sits locked in a safe at Maranello, its implications more powerful than anyone initially realized. When Lewis Hamilton signed with the Scuderia in a move that sent shockwaves through Formula One, the headlines focused on the record-breaking salary and the romantic notion of the sport's most successful driver joining its most iconic team. But buried within the legal language was something far more significant, a clause so unusual that Paddock insiders are calling it unprecedented in modern Formula One. "I've never seen anything like it in 30 years of Formula One," reveals a veteran team principal, speaking on condition of anonymity. Teams always maintain some control, performance clauses, mutual options, or at minimum a seat at the negotiating table. For Ferrari to surrender that power completely, it speaks volumes about how desperately they wanted him. The revelation comes at a particularly challenging moment for the Scuderia. After a promising start to their partnership, with Hamilton securing a sprint race victory in China and a podium in Miami, recent races have seen the relationship tested. The Ferrari SF25 has proven temperamental, brilliant in specific conditions, but falling dramatically out of its performance window with the slightest setup change. After a particularly difficult Hungarian Grand Prix, where Ferrari's pace collapsed in the final stint, Hamilton made a cryptic comment that raised eyebrows throughout the paddock. "There are things happening behind the scenes that I can't talk about right now." Those things now appear to include internal discussions about Hamilton's future with the team. Sources close to Maranello suggest that some senior figures have privately questioned whether the Hamilton experiment is working as planned. With Charles Leclerc firmly established as Ferrari's long-term future and Oliver Bearman impressing in his rookie season at Haas, whispers had begun about whether Ferrari might prefer a different direction for 2027. But the contract clause renders those discussions largely academic. If Hamilton wants to stay, he stays, regardless of Ferrari's preferences. The seven-time world champion, not Ferrari, holds complete control over his future beyond 2026. He can unilaterally extend his contract into 2027, regardless of his performance, regardless of team dynamics, and regardless of what Ferrari's management might prefer. In the high-stakes world of Formula One, where teams ruthlessly discard drivers who underperform, Hamilton has negotiated something extraordinary: absolute power over his own destiny. How did we reach this extraordinary situation? The story begins in late 2023, when Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur initiated conversations with Hamilton about a potential move. The two men share a long history, with Vasseur having managed Hamilton in Formula 3 and GP2, now Formula 2, during his formative years. That personal connection proved crucial in what became Formula One's most sensational driver transfer in years. "Fred and Lewis have a relationship built on absolute trust," explains a former Art Grand Prix team member who worked with both men. "When Fred tells Lewis something, Lewis believes it without question. That's rare in Formula One, where promises are often made and broken within the same season." Vasseur's pitch to Hamilton was compelling. Join Ferrari for the revolutionary 2026 regulations, when Formula One will introduce radically new power units with significantly increased electrical power and 100% sustainable fuels. Ferrari was investing heavily in this new era, with resources being diverted to the 2026 project earlier than most competitors. The message was clear: come to Ferrari and win that record-breaking 8th World Championship that had so cruelly eluded him at Abu Dhabi 2021. But Hamilton, at 40 years old and with nothing left to prove, held significant leverage in negotiations. He wasn't desperate for a seat, Ferrari was desperate for his signature. This dynamic allowed him and his management team to push for contract terms that would have been unthinkable for almost any other driver. "The negotiations were unlike anything I've seen before," reveals a source involved in the contract discussions. "Usually teams hold most of the cards, but here it was Hamilton's representatives dictating terms and Ferrari essentially saying yes to everything. They wanted him that badly." The resulting contract included not just an enormous financial package, reportedly worth up to $100 million over 2 years, including bonuses and commercial rights, but also unprecedented control over his future. The key clause stipulates that after the initial 2-year term, it's essentially a 2+1 contract where only one party has a say about the +1, explains a sports contract lawyer with knowledge of Formula One agreements. Typically, option years require mutual agreement or are tied to specific performance targets. This is different. It's completely one-sided in favor of the driver. The implications extend far beyond Hamilton's personal future. This clause has created a complex domino effect throughout the driver market, particularly for Ferrari's junior drivers. Oliver Bearman, the British prodigy who scored points on his spectacular Ferrari debut as a last-minute replacement for Carlos Sainz in Saudi Arabia 2024, finds his future particularly uncertain. Ollie is in limbo, admits a Ferrari driver academy coach. The plan was always to have him at Haas for 2 seasons, then evaluate him for a potential Ferrari seat in 2027 if he performs well. But if Hamilton decides to stay, that pathway disappears. We'd need to either find him another seat or risk losing him to another team. Bearman's impressive rookie season has already attracted attention from multiple teams. After scoring points in 4 of the first 10 races of 2025, including a remarkable 5th place in the chaotic British Grand Prix, the 20-year-old has established himself as one of the grid's most promising talents. Mercedes is reportedly monitoring his situation closely, potentially viewing him as a long-term successor to George Russell if Hamilton extends at Ferrari. The irony isn't lost on anyone, notes a driver manager. Ferrari might lose their best junior talent in years because they gave too much power to a driver who will be 42 years old in 2027. It's a massive gamble on the present at the expense of the future. For Ferrari chairman John Elkann, however, the Hamilton signing was about more than just on-track performance. It represented a statement of intent, a declaration that Ferrari was once again the team that the very best drivers aspire to join. After years of watching Mercedes and Red Bull dominate the championship while Ferrari cycled through promising seasons that ultimately fell short, Elkann wanted a transformational figure who could change the team's culture and commercial appeal. Hamilton brings something that goes far beyond his driving ability, explains a Ferrari board member. He's a global icon who transcends the sport. His influence in fashion, music, social activism, these open doors to sponsors and markets that weren't previously accessible to us. The merchandising numbers since his signing was announced are unlike anything we've seen before. Indeed, Ferrari's commercial department has been overwhelmed by the Hamilton effect. Limited edition Ferrari Hamilton merchandise sold out within hours of release, while social media engagement has increased by over 200% compared to the previous year. New sponsorship deals have been signed with brands specifically wanting to associate with the Hamilton Ferrari partnership, bringing tens of millions in additional revenue. From a pure business perspective, signing Hamilton has already paid for itself, notes a sports marketing executive. Even if he never wins a race for Ferrari, the commercial impact justifies the investment. That's why they were willing to accept contract terms they would never offer to anyone else. But for Frédéric Vasseur, the focus remains firmly on performance. The French team principal has overseen significant structural changes since taking charge in 2023, flattening the team's hierarchy and bringing in key technical personnel from rivals. The most significant appointment came in May 2024, when Ferrari announced that Loic Serra would join from Mercedes as head of chassis performance engineering, a move widely seen as laying groundwork for Hamilton's arrival. Serra had worked closely with Hamilton at Mercedes, understanding his specific requirements and preferences for car behaviour. His delayed start at Ferrari, due to gardening leave, meant he had minimal input on the SF25. But his influence will be much more significant on the 2026 car, the project that ultimately convinced Hamilton to make the move. Loic understands exactly what Lewis needs from a car, explains a former Mercedes engineer. Lewis has a very specific driving style that requires a particular front-end response and rear stability. When the car doesn't have those characteristics, he struggles to extract the maximum performance. Serra knows how to deliver that platform. The 2026 regulations represent a fundamental reset for Formula One, with power units that will derive 50% of their power from electrical energy, up from around 20% currently. For Hamilton, these changes represent his best opportunity to secure that elusive 8th World Championship. With all teams essentially starting from scratch, Ferrari's early investment in 2026 development could provide a crucial advantage. The 2026 Ferrari power unit is already running on the test bench, reveals an engineer with connections to Maranello. The early results are extremely promising. The electrical system in particular is showing efficiency numbers that exceeded even their most optimistic projections. This focus on 2026, however, has come at a cost to current performance. While Ferrari began the 2025 season strongly, recent races have seen them fall behind McLaren and Red Bull in the development race. Technical director Enrico Cardile has been forced to split resources between addressing car issues and maintaining the 2026 development timeline, a balancing act that has frustrated both drivers. These tensions came to a head following the Hungarian Grand Prix, where Ferrari's performance collapsed in the final stint after they raised the car's ride height through tyre pressure adjustments. What should have been a minor compromise to prevent excessive wear on the skid block resulted in a catastrophic loss of downforce, with Leclerc and Hamilton losing over a second per lap to their rivals. The car is fundamentally flawed, a Ferrari engineer told Italian publication Autosprint. We've created a package that only works in a very narrow window. When we're in that window, we can fight for victories. When we're outside it, which is most of the time, we're fighting in the midfield. For Hamilton, these struggles have been particularly challenging. After years of driving Mercedes cars designed around his preferences, he's had to adapt to a Ferrari with very different handling characteristics. The SF25's tendency toward understeer in slow corners and instability under braking has forced Hamilton to modify his driving style, a difficult task for a driver with over 300 Grand Prix starts using a particular approach. Lewis is still searching for that last 2 or 3 tenths, explains Marc Genet, Ferrari's test driver and ambassador. In race conditions, his pace is very similar to Charles, sometimes even stronger on tyre management. But in qualifying, when you need to absolutely nail that one perfect lap, he's still not completely comfortable with how the car behaves at the absolute limit. These challenges have led to speculation about whether Hamilton might regret his move from Mercedes, particularly as his former team has shown improved form in recent races. George Russell's victory at the British Grand Prix, followed by strong podium finishes in Hungary and Belgium, suggests that Mercedes has finally solved the fundamental issues that Cavalier's cars since the introduction of ground effect regulations in 2022.
There's no regret whatsoever, Hamilton insisted when questioned at the Belgian Grand Prix. I made this move with the long-term future in mind. Ferrari is where I want to end my career, whether that's next year or 5 years from now. We're building something special here and I'm fully committed to that process. That process is being led by Vasseur, whose management style differs significantly from Hamilton's previous bosses. Unlike Toto Wolff's emotionally charged approach or Ron Dennis's clinical precision, Vasseur brings a more collaborative philosophy, encouraging open debate and empowering team members to make decisions within their areas of expertise. This environment has helped Hamilton integrate into the team, despite the language barriers and cultural differences. He's made efforts to learn Italian, regularly spends time dating Ferrari's heritage and traditions. For a driver often portrayed as having interests outside Formula One, Hamilton has shown remarkable commitment to understanding Ferrari's unique culture. Lewis has surprised everyone with his engagement, reveals a long-serving Ferrari mechanic. He's constantly asking questions about the team's history, about previous cars, about the people who built Ferrari's legacy. He understands that driving for Ferrari means becoming part of something bigger than yourself. This appreciation for Ferrari's heritage has helped Hamilton weather the current performance challenges. Unlike some previous star drivers who grew frustrated when results didn't immediately match expectations, Hamilton has maintained a positive public attitude, consistently emphasizing the long-term project over short-term results. For Ferrari, the gamble is whether Hamilton will still be performing at his peak as he approaches his 43rd birthday in 2027. No driver in the modern era has maintained championship-level performance at that age, with even the great Michael Schumacher struggling during his Mercedes comeback in his early 40s. The physical demands of current Formula One cars, pulling up to 6G in high-speed corners and requiring lightning-fast reactions, typically favour younger drivers. Age is just a number, Hamilton responded when questioned about this at the season-opening Bahrain Grand Prix. I feel better physically than I did 10 years ago. My training is more scientific, my diet is better, my recovery is more efficient. Experience counts for a lot in this sport, and that's something you can only gain with time. Hamilton's physical condition certainly supports his claim. Ferrari's medical team was reportedly astonished by his fitness test results when he joined the team, with cardiovascular and reaction measurements matching those of drivers 15 years his junior. His flexibility and core strength, crucial for withstanding the physical demands of modern F1 cars, were particularly impressive. As the 2025 season progresses toward its conclusion, attention is already turning to the crucial 2026 project. Ferrari has begun shifting additional resources toward Year's car, which will serve as a development platform for the revolutionary 2026 machine. Wind tunnel testing of concept models for the new regulations has already begun, with promising early results. For Hamilton, this technical reset represents his best opportunity to secure that elusive world championship. With all teams starting from scratch under the new regulations, Ferrari's early investment and focused approach could provide a crucial advantage in the early stages of the new era. This conviction explains why Hamilton negotiated such a powerful contract clause. By ensuring he can unilaterally extend into 2027, he's given himself the opportunity to capitalize fully on Ferrari's 2026 project, regardless of how the team might perform in the interim. If the car is championship capable, he can continue his pursuit of that record-breaking 8th title. If not, he still maintains complete control over his Formula One destiny. It's the perfect insurance policy, notes a sports contract specialist. Hamilton gets all the upside potential of Ferrari's 2026 project, with none of the downside risk to his career. If the project succeeds, he can extend and potentially make history. If it fails, he can still choose to continue or walk away entirely on his own terms. As Formula One approaches its most significant technical revolution in a generation, the Hamilton-Ferrari partnership stands at the center of the sport's sport.
Will Hamilton exercise his option to remain at Ferrari for 2027? Will Ferrari's 2026 project deliver the championship-capable car he joined for? And what happens to promising talents like Bearman if Hamilton decides to extend his stay? The answers to these questions will shape not just Hamilton's legacy, but the future direction of Formula One's most storied